If you have watched this show regularly since the last election, you might have heard me say that I think the greatest show on earth, the greatest show in U.S. politics, is watching the Republican Party find its way out of the wilderness, watching them find their post-Bush, post-McCain identity. Here is a perfect story to show how far they've come as of today. During the presidential campaign, this happened at a John McCain for President rally.
The Stooges from the New York Times, CBS, the Clinton Broadcasting System, NBC, the Nobody but Clinton Network, the All Bill Clinton Channel ABC, and the Clinton News Network at some point is going to peel the bark off Barack Hussein Obama. That day will come. At some point, the media will quit taking sides in this thing and maybe start covering Barack Hussein Obama the same way they covered Bush, the same way they covered Cheney, and the same way they cover every Republican. I'll look forward to that day when truth comes. I'll look forward to that.
Barack Hussein Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Again, this was 2 years ago. This was February of 2008. This guy was the warm-up act at a John McCain rally. John McCain reacted to that introduction with horror. It was seen as a big campaign gaffe. Senator McCain repudiated the remarks and apologized the same day the remarks were made.
I have repeatedly stated of my respect for Senator Obama and Senator Clinton, that I will treat them with respect. I will call them Senator. We will have a respectful debate, as I have said on hundreds of occasions. I regret any comments that may be made about these two individuals who are honorable Americans.
I regret those comments. Hold up, wait a minute. That right there, that was offensive. That language should have never been used. His bad, my bad. I'm sorry. That guy doesn't speak for me. Not when that guy makes repeated references to Barack Hussein Obama. Not when he refers to the fake Obama Kenyan birth certificate, as he did later that summer, by saying, quote, maybe it is accurate. And certainly not when the same guy alleged, as he did just before the election, that, quote, Obama wants to gas the Jews. That whole incident was not that long ago, when the Republican leadership, John McCain, was aghast that this talk show host was being associated with his campaign. What a difference a couple of years makes. In this year's election, Republican leadership is all about that same guy who so horrified them in 2008. At least they are, if the guy who called out the man who would become our first Kenyan anti-Semitic president can be believed.
I'm going to do my show that day from the portico of the Speaker of the House's office in the U.S. Capitol. I've been invited there by the new Speaker of the House, John Boehner, and I'll be the only radio talk show host in the Speaker's office doing my show from the portico overlooking the Washington Monument.
And by that day, he means Election Day. So if we believe him, the Obama's a Muslim radio guy who so horrified the Republican leadership in 2008 that they apologized for him and repudiated him and said they regretted him being at a John McCain event, he now says he has been invited by the Republican leadership to broadcast from House Republican leader John Boehner's office on Election Day. Now, we asked John Boehner's office to confirm talk show host Bill Cunningham's claims about this invitation. Mr. Boehner's office replied to us tonight saying in part, quote, Leader Boehner has made no plans for election night. So maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But if the anti-Obama attacks that were deemed out of line and out of bounds by Republicans during the smash-mouth presidential campaign are now back in bounds, that stuff's now okay, then I want to know, is there any new line? Is there anything anymore that is too much of a low blow? Joining us now is Jonathan Alter, Newsweek's senior editor and columnist and MSNBC contributor. His latest book is The Promise, President Obama, Year One. Jonathan, thanks very much.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi. Is there less of a downside in a midterm than there is in a presidential election to latching the party onto one of these Obama's a Muslim far-right guys?
You know, I don't think they're even making that kind of cool political judgment. They have just become a talk show party. You know, Obama asked them, the Republican leadership, point blank in February of 2009 in a private meeting that I have in my book, do you want to be the party of Rush Limbaugh? And they didn't answer the question, but the answer is apparently yes. They are willing to latch themselves to these extreme folks. And this represents a pretty big change in American politics, because we're not talking about obscure backbenchers. We're talking about the leadership of one of our major political parties, and there is a very strong possibility that John Boehner will be the next Speaker of the House of Representatives, in line in presidential succession.
In terms of John Boehner's role, though, we talked a week ago about whether or not him becoming an opposite number to President Obama for these elections was a good thing for Democrats or a good thing for Republicans. We thought it seemed like a bad choice for Republicans. But if they really are having talk show hosts broadcast from his office on election night, that not only says they think they're going to win, but it says that they do really want him to be the center of attention, doesn't it?
Well, they just are, looking forward to a big victory. I mean, Boehner is getting kind of cocky at this point. So whether they've made these plans with this guy Cunningham or not, who knows? Cunningham insists that he has been invited in there. But the larger point still obtains, that they are willing to be associated with people who are out of bounds. Now, the clip just showed, that he called him Barack Hussein Obama. At this point, since Obama decided on Inauguration Day to be sworn in as Barack Hussein Obama, that insult doesn't sound that terrible. But this is a guy who has said that Obama has the mark of the beast on him, that he's the Antichrist. Cunningham has said that. So we're talking about some pretty wacky stuff, and I think one of the big stories of our politics is that the wacky has now moved from the fringe into the center of our politics.
But it does imply some sort of calculation that that's a good move, that the excitement that you get for people who are far right from bringing in people like that compensates for any price you'll pay with anybody who considers himself a moderate. Is it just a calculation that there are no moderates anymore?
Well, remember, they're still in primary mode, and in primary mode, there's a great danger within the Republican Party in seeming moderate. It's almost a dirty word to be moderate. Look what happened to Senator Bennett of Utah, who's the classic example, a very conservative senator, but he dared to work with some Democrats on some moderate legislation, and he was just thrown out of the party. So this is not your father's Republican Party. This is a different kind of political party nowadays, and I think the entire political system is just beginning to accommodate itself to this. It began in 1994. That was where we got radical Republican leadership for the first time. The reason that they succeeded was that the moderate Republican leadership of the old days had failed to regain control of the House of Representatives. So the lesson after 94 was, be radical, and maybe you can come back into power.
Yeah, count on your base, don't count on the middle.
Right. So the message is not really for other Republicans. The message is for Democrats. And how much do Democrats care about turning over a branch of our government to extremists, to radicals? And so if this can't close the so-called enthusiasm gap, what can? And I do think it's a challenge for progressives who are saying, "Oh, I'm not, I'm disappointed in Obama. I'm not that excited. I'm not going to work the way I did the last time." Well, they need to learn a little bit about what the stakes are. So an incident like this reminds us that we're talking about a different crowd with a radical agenda that they want to impose on our country.
Jonathan Alter, an MSNBC contributor, the author of The Promise, about President Obama's first year in office. It is great to have you here. Thanks, John.
Great to see you, Rachel.